At this point, like, how final is the draft? Like, how many, can you say how many guys are on it, and sort of what level of tinkering happens at this point?
Yeah, the main lists there's a little over 50, and then you kind of have the area lists, and then different things as you move forward. You know, skill, size, different. You know, there's different categories that we can kind of make adjustments at the table as we move down through the list.
Getting that list ready, from the outside, it looks like there's a lot of variation to it, to everyone's list this year. Has it been any more difficult a year to put together that list than any years past?
Well, we've always put together our list, but we felt like we kind of knew how it was going to go. You know, maybe after one, it's anybody's guess. You know, I think when you look back over the years, you're like, oh yeah, we were, you know, maybe one or two players here or there, kind of up and down, but the majority of it. But this is one year I'm thinking, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. So when we're sitting there, you know, waiting for 9 to come, it'll be interesting for sure.
What are the chances that you don't wait for 9 to come?
You know, the one thing I do think, and already 2 teams have moved. You know, I think Chicago's moved, and then with the Islanders, and then today with Buffalo. So there's definitely been movement already. That's the big difference from last year. There was no movement talk. You know, you'd call, nope, we're going to stand pat. But, you know, it's just what is the price and how much it is, and it's interesting. Usually happens the day of the draft where you see what's coming as the picks go, and then you make the move. But they've already made 2, so it'll be interesting to see how it is tomorrow. But I do think you'll see more movement.
So you've had some of those conversations, and you've got a feel for what it might cost to jump a little bit?
Yes, generally so, yeah. So you have all those, you know, but again, you want to see how this draft is kind of unfolding to get the guy you want.
You talked about the unpredictability a little bit. Does that make your job and your scouting staff's job harder, or do you just have to be more patient to see?
Well, it's just we put our list in order, and they're going to have their list. So we don't know how it's going to go. We can't do anything, you know, the teams above us, how they're going to pick. We just have to make sure ours is in order, and whoever, as we're checking off the names, you know, who's the best player on our list at that point.
How open are you to moving some of your draft capital for a player in that age 18 to 23 range?
You know, it's weird. We would be open to it for sure. I mean, if there was opportunities to move, you know, a second, a late first to get a player that you feel like is worth that, we would. Not many teams are right now. That doesn't seem like it's a real possibility. But, you know, you have those conversations. Would you be willing to do this or that? And most teams have been probably not right now, Craig. But, you know, you just have to circle back and stay on them and see if there's something you can do at some point.
You've been involved in the hockey ops here for a while. Is there a draft that this kind of feels similar to in your past, the sort of the variation in, I guess, the perception of different players?
That's a good question. I mean, what draft was there? You know, this is a unique draft. I mean, even if you look at all the defensemen that are out there early on, they're all different. Everybody's got different. And I think, you know, we said, oh, we just put them in order, and you know, but if you have a need, this might be the year you go with the need. You know, you say, I need this type of player. You might go off your list a little bit to get a player that you feel like you need, because there's just so many different kind of players, especially on defense.
Unique situation with Iginla, you know.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do with that if it kind of comes to it? It's a possibility. Like, that's got to be some interesting dynamic there for you.
It is, you know. I mean, I think you just don't know how it's going to go, so you kind of don't even think about it. If he's on our list and in that spot, then you go with it, and if not, you know, or he's gone before, you know, that you just don't know how it's going to play out. But it's interesting when he actually did sit in the meetings yesterday. Most meetings he left, but he didn't leave yesterday. We were talking about Tej, so yeah, he was comfortable with it. You know, he just said, if you just do whatever you have to say, whatever you say, just like I wasn't here. So
Is there value? Obviously, you want to take the best player, have the best player you can in your organization, but there's another element with him. There's some heritage there. It would be a pretty cool story. Is there value that needs to be considered beyond just volume player?
I mean, I do think, you know, obviously the knowledge, you know, knowing the player, knowing the person, knowing the family, you know, with what his dad there, and it's also a lot of pressure, though. I mean, that's, you know, you've heard both sides. Is it unfair for him? Is it? But that's why we said, okay, it's a name, just like yours and mine. We're all just one name, and if he's the right name at the time, you know, and if he's there, then we'll take him. And if there's another player that we feel is the right player. You know, it's just too hard to do it. It's a great story though. You know, I can see why everybody's talking about it because of his dad, best player ever in Flames history. No offense, Lanny, but I got to be careful. Lanny's I'll be getting. Oh, I got a text now. But with that said, I mean, it's just you know, I can see why it's so exciting for everybody. I mean, it's exciting for the city of Calgary. Everybody talks about it, but until you sit down at that draft table, you just don't know what's going to happen.
Potentially worth trading up to write that story?
If there's an opportunity, you know, we'll see what happens. But it's, you know, I think the one thing we said, we got the draft capital this year. We would like to we've had years where we haven't made many picks. So we'd like to kind of restock and keep as many picks as we can.
On the point of the pressure that would be on him if that ever happened. I spoke with him yesterday. He doesn't seem like he would be worried about or would wilt under that pressure from your, talking with him. What is your sense of how, if that ever went in that direction, he would handle that pressure?
You know, I think, well, you saw him. He's well spoken. I mean, he's like his dad. I mean, he's got the same mannerisms, and you know, so I think with the pressure, there's going to be pressure everywhere, though. So I don't, you know, in the end, it's the NHL, and you know, I saw it with Matthew Tkachuk here, and you know, Brady, and there's always going to be pressure, especially when your dad played in the NHL, maybe even more. But no matter what team you go to, so you know, I do think. You know, he can handle that. He's going to handle the pressure wherever he goes.
What about you, though? If he's still on the board, there's going to be a lot of pressure on you. Just how do you isolate or insulate yourself from the fan base and the marketing department and all those exterior elements? I
go Todd Button's list. With the list, you know, it's you can be mad at Todd Button. That's my easy answer.
Is it fair that at 9, whether it's Tees or anyone else, it's best player available at that spot?
For us, it is. You know, I do think some other teams, it might be a positional need or whatever, but I do think for us, it is best player. I mean, I think that's been our mindset the whole, all the meetings we talked about, get the list right, put them in order, and if whoever's the best player at that time, we need to take it.
So what about the 28th overall pick?
You know, I think there may be more opportunity maybe to move up on that pick if we really like someone with the extra picks we have. So, you know, but we do have a group of guys we really like there too. We might have to move up to get one of them, but we'll, you know, like I said, we'll see how the draft's kind of unfolding, and then if there's an opportunity to move up, try to do that at 28. But we really like the players at 28 too.
Is that part of the benefit of having in each of the first 4 rounds those 2 picks and maybe some of the flexibility there, and probably expecting to receive a few phone calls as it goes along?
Yeah, I mean, that's the nice thing. When you don't have many picks, I mean, everybody on draft day wants to add some draft capital, and you can, you know, we just in years past, we haven't had a lot of picks. We moved down on the Zari draft a couple times to grab some picks, but you know, moving forward tomorrow, I think I've had a lot more conversations this year than last year, just about the possibility of, hey, would you be willing? We're at 28. You know, if we and they're open to it, so that's nice.
With a look at free agency here, what would you say your strategy would be in terms of making moves to improve your team for this upcoming season, you know, versus the long haul here? You know, you're kind of into it a little bit both. So what signal will you send with free agency?
Well, I think, you know, I don't think we're going to be like a 6 or 7 year market. Looking for high quality individuals, maybe on shorter deals that can come in and give us that help, because the one thing we've talked about, we've made some trades and brought in some young guys, but we don't want to rush those young guys. We want to make sure, you know, they develop at the right speed and not put them in over their head right away. So, you know, if we can do shorter term deals to help the team and kind of help our younger guys that are going to be in the lineup, you know, that's kind of the key going into free agency for us. And the one position, I think with Markstrom actually leaving, we probably going to have to look at the goalie market and try to find someone to help support the guys that we have there.
Any updates on Oliver Shillington?
No updates yet. You know, we've talked to his representation and we're working through, and you know, it's never as easy and as quick as you'd like.
How are you feeling, I guess, compared to last year? I know last year you were very publicly juggling a lot of difficult, challenging things. Is this year feel any different than last year?
Big difference between last year and this year was it's all about the draft this year. It's not about trades. And last year, I think we did the Toffoli trade while we were here, but it was calls on Lindholm and Hannafin and all those guys were getting calls on. So it was a lot more about that than actually just focusing on the draft. And I think this year it's been about focusing on the draft, and we have lots of picks. So I think that's kind of been the main difference. We haven't been not a lot of trade talks in this one, not like last year.
You guys signed some significant players to significant contracts when your organization was maybe positioned a little differently in terms of trying to stay competitive based on the reason that they wanted to be here. Is there a pressure to stay competitive for that reason because these guys signed on for something?
It is. I mean, you understand why they signed on, and the team that they signed up with, and that was the unfortunate thing when you look back a year ago, we had a lot of UFAs coming up, and we weren't able to get them signed other than Backlund. So, not that we didn't try to sign some of the guys, and it just, but again, we had a term and dollar figure in our head, what made sense for us, and that would allow us to kind of continue to get better moving forward. It did not work out, and then you have to kind of deal with what you're dealt with, and that's what we had to do. So I understand that, but I do believe all those guys believe they can step up. Everybody can do more. With the team we had when we started, we were 2-9 in that area, and then we brought up Pospisil and Zari, and we got them right back to 500. I mean, I'm thinking these young guys, if they're ready, and we don't want to, like I said, we don't want to rush them, but that gives me hope. Because Nazem Kadri helped every player he played with. Our veteran guys, Backlund was unbelievable, did an unbelievable job as a captain. First year, I mean, I know how Bax is. He's a very nice person, but, he was pushing the guys. So I know this group, they're going to push. The Uyghurs, the Andersons, they plan on winning every night. And, the one thing, our young goaltenders are going to get a chance. And I think for the first time, they're pretty excited. I know Jordan Sigalet talked to both of them, and they want to prove themselves. I mean, and that's what you want. You want guys that want to prove themselves and show that, hey, we can play in the NHL and we can help the team win.
There is this sense, maybe it's just from the outside, from an outsider to the market, but that the goal is to be competitive when the new building opens. But it feels like you want to get some stuff done before then. Like that's a priority.
Well, I just think, the one thing I think it's hard to tell a team, oh, it's okay to lose, and then now you have to win. That doesn't. For me, we want to win every game. We want, even when I came to Calgary, coming from St. Louis, I remember thinking, we'd won a President's Trophy. We had a very good team in St. Louis, but my mindset never changed. I mean, every game, even though we weren't going to make the playoffs mathematically when I got here, and then the next year, our goal was always to get better and do it. And then, the 04 run happen, and we made some changes, but I think it was always about, there was never a guy sat in that locker room and was happy with a loss. That's not how players are. I mean, players are very competitive. You don't get to the NHL by ever thinking it's okay to lose.
You mentioned the goalie market and how there might be a possibility there at the UFA. If you find a guy there, what would that mean for Dan Vladar and Dustin Wolf and them getting their opportunities?
Well, I think it's more of it would be more of a guy probably that they're all competing. Again, nothing's given in the NHL. You want to make people compete and earn jobs, and I think that would be the mindset. I don't think you'd get a guy for 4 or 5 years. It'd be like we talked earlier, maybe a shorter term deal, but also you want to have support there because with Dan having the hip surgery, everything looks like it's on schedule and on track, but if there was ever a setback, then you have to deal with that. So you do need to have more than just a couple goalies.
But one more for me. Do you see yourself adding a defenseman in the UFA market?
Definitely looking at that in that area. I mean, I think up front we have a lot of we have a lot of forwards signed, and a guy like Pelche who's got waivers this year and he had a tough year with the setbacks. But we believe, hey, you know what, he's going to get a great opportunity this year, and he's going to get a look, and it'll be fun for him too. But on the D, maybe adding someone would be probably a priority.